Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Longboard Blues, 1975. A YouTuber's on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends used to bug you. Longboard Blues, 1975.
Hey YouTube, Longboys Post 1975, and welcome to, well, I don't really know what this is. Well, obviously you've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the descriptive term. This is my original Japanese PlayStation. Technically, I'm retreading old water because I have nostalgic memories of my PlayStation video many, many moons ago. However, what's changed since then is, I was rooting... That's not a good noise, is it? I was rooting around in the attic and I came across this box, this ominous box. Dave's PlayStation. I'm not really sure why I felt the need to store it in the attic in this box, especially since I actually still have my original Model 1 Japanese PlayStation box, which has clearly seen better days. But to be fair, if you spent the best part of 29 years since launch in the attic, you probably wouldn't be looking too good either. 29 years, Jesus. When we think about consoles that are 30 years old, we always just think about sort of the SNES and the Sega Mega Drive, or maybe the NES and maybe the Master System. But PlayStation, biggest game changer in the console industry ever. That's not even arguable, right? And also, I'm not a PlayStation guy right now. I haven't owned a PlayStation console since the PlayStation 2. I'm an Xbox guy. Judge me as you will. But the point is, even I understand, appreciate, and accept what a game changer Sony was coming into the console industry, whether or not it was simply because of Nintendo fucking them over. I think all of us are better off because of it. But my original Japanese Model 1 PlayStation box, it's a bit wanked, isn't it? But even in this, there's stuff for... There's a mini Glock falling out, which leads into the next bit. Even in its wanked out, beaten up form, it's still such a better looking box. I'm trying to stop a plethora of weapons falling out the bottom of this than the crap PAL one. But yeah, so why is your PlayStation not stored in this in the attic, Dave? Well, it's funny you should say that, because for some reason in this box is a whole bunch of Todd McFarlane action figures from the 90s. I was mad about these boys. This wasn't a Todd McFarlane one. This is a Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. It used to be talking. Doesn't work anymore. Oh! Rather resplendent Freddy Krueger figure. But yeah, I had loads of those. Absolutely loads of those. You could argue it ties into this video because it was such a big part of what I collected in the 90s. But the point is, that contains them. This contains this. This is filthy. This is absolutely filthy. I mean, look at it. It looks like... Well, to be fair, I did smoke at the time, but no one didn't smoke in the house. But yeah, look at that. Look at that nicotine sheen coming right off that bad boy. Yeah. Also, I don't recall that it had such a long RGB SCART lead. Look at that. They weren't messing around there. Sockets on the back, power in. Obviously hardwired to RGB. AV out. And whatever that is. Expansion port. Was this ever used? Maybe for the VCD thing? Don't know. Can't open it. Don't have nails. Or lack of calcium. Well, yeah, whatever, you get the idea. But look at that. So, is this the original number? It's SCPH 1000. Look at those furry little feet. Oh my god, I could shave those bad boys. Does it still open? I haven't checked this to see if it even works. I do know that under one of these legs on the CD tray is a chunk of CD case that my mate Andy wedged under when one of the springs went quite early in its life, and it worked fine. This is also modded. Also, look, can you see that? It's in Japanese. But yeah, the nostalgia I have for this console is massively, massively strong. I bought this in very, very, very early 1995. I remember it showing up in magazines. I remember everyone losing their shit over it. Sony, you know, them people who make high-grade hi-fis and shit like that are entering the console market. They didn't really talk about it back then, about, you know, it being because of, you know, them being screwed over by Nintendo. But yeah, everyone was losing their shit over it because it's just, the name Sony was just, you know, in hand with high quality products. So if Sony are going to make a video game console, then it must be the tits. And it was and it wasn't. When I say it wasn't in 2D, which is aged a lot better now, and that's why I think I actually technically prefer the Saturn over the PlayStation. But back then it was all about 3D, but the 3D is aged incredibly badly. But I'm being a bit, you know, facetious because it's, yeah, got to take a product of its time. But yeah, I remember, like, was it Mean Machines? I don't know. I think it was probably stuff like The Edge, kind of a little bit higher brow magazines talking about Sony entering the market with this machine that could push around. And everything was about how many polygons you could chuck around and whether or not they were shaded. Was it Guru shading? I don't know. But yeah, they'd always have comparisons. And obviously the 3DO was out at this point, which I still really like as a machine. I still own one. I just can't use it because I don't own a TV that has an RGB socket on it anymore. But yeah, that's an underage GM, but we're not talking about that. Yeah, so everyone was chucking around polygon counts and stuff like that, and the PlayStation wiped the floor with all of them. Awkward. Also, I really like the aesthetic. I still think it really, really, really holds up. The PS1 also, which I have one of, is just immense looking. But there was definitely a kind of, and people took the piss of it at the time, out of it, I should say, sorry, saying it was very Fisher-Price in its appearance. But look, tell me that has not aged badly. That is not aged badly. And also, they knocked it out of the park with the actual logo. Also, there's a lot more weight to this than I remember there actually being. I really, really, really do. Also, oh, so 90s. Top loading. But yeah, so then they were talking about it and it was coming out in Japan and we were going to get it, like, I'm pretty sure I had mine best part of 8, maybe 9 months before it came out in the UK. Pretty fucking popular that year, I could tell you. Pretty poor as well when I get to how much it cost me. But yeah, so everyone was drooling over the PlayStation and it had this really immense, it was marketed to adults. I mean, Sega thought in the 90s they were like the cool kids. They were marketing towards, you know, grown-ups and stuff like that. And Nintendo was for kids, Sega's for grown-ups and stuff like that. But Sony nailed it, especially like, you know, the E generation, because let's be honest, with stuff like Wipeout, and they even had this in the Ministry of Sound in London, didn't they? A bunch of PlayStations that people were playing basically off their tits. Yeah, so they were clearly marketing towards adults. You know, people with a little bit more disposable income, which would probably justify the price. But so everyone was drooling over it. You know, a couple of screenshots were coming out. I remember the first screenshots I saw were for Ballerina Toshinden, which I owned and was like an experience when I owned it. You know, and took it around my mate's house for graphics and stuff like that. But ultimately, it was a shit game. Motor Toon GP, which I still have my original Japanese copy of, which was, yeah, a crap kart racer, yeah, and Cyber Sled. But the whole point was it was on hardware that was incredibly similar to the boards that Namco were using in their arcade machines at the time, and we drooled over it, and we absolutely drooled over it. We're like, holy shit, look at these 3D graphics, and we genuinely thought, for the first time in a very long period, that this is genuinely going to give us true arcade, perfect graphics and shit like that. But long story short, right, so Murmurings were so far away, you know, being launched officially in the UK. And even back then, I knew, because of my experiences with my imported Mega Drive and my imported SNES, compared to their PAL equivalents, that the PAL version of this would be shit. And it was. It was thanks to piracy that they fixed the fucking bodge ports on that, because people were releasing pirated games with like those little screener things at the start of it, where you could select it between 60 hertz and 50 hertz if obviously you RGB modded and shit like that. And basically all the companies thought, fuck, Pirates are putting out modded versions of our games illegally that actually deliver the performance that we're too fucking lazy to do. But again, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Good times, good times. Also, as I mentioned, this is chipped. Definitely good times. My software library on this bad boy was insane. But yeah, so the memories were it was so far away, and I remember drawings over magazines and stuff like that. I thought, I'm not fucking waiting for then. Absolutely not waiting for then. So, pre-sat-nav found by, because we used to pore over the black and whites in the back of newspapers and shit like that back then. I miss those. I miss those times. I miss those days. That was a really good way to get shit, whether you want a bed, a cot, a couch, spares for your car, even a new car, or a console. Black and whites in the back of the Evening Post. So I was going over them, and there was a bloke in St George who had Sega Saturns imported and Sony PlayStations imported. Excuse me, Windy Pops. And yeah, both of them were £450. And so I called him up and said, do you still have one? Do you still have one? And he was like, yes, I still have one. I said, right, don't get rid of it. I'm coming. I'm coming now. And I scraped, borrowed, begged all the money together to get it, because 450 quid in 1995, when I'd only been out of college for 2 years, and I think I was actually unemployed at that point, was a lot of money. Was a lot of money. I don't even know what that is just adjusted for inflation now, but it's huge. So I borrowed it, and then I got my mate Andy to drive us there. And back then, no sat-navs, do you remember those days? No sat-navs when most people could actually read a fucking map. Kids these days can't even read a fucking map on their phone, let alone a map. But yeah, read a map round the back lanes and shit like that in St George, which is about 35 minutes from the house. Found this house, knocked on the door, walked in, and he had a Sony PlayStation and a Sega Saturn set up, and he was running Daytona on the Saturn, and he was running Cyber Sled. Not the best demo, I know. Still look better than Daytona Saturn, though I still really like that game, and I think it's a good port. But yeah, and you know, all right, mate, how you doing? And stuff like that. And he goes, hey, look, you know, have a play around on both of them. Which one do you want? I said, oh, I want a Sony PlayStation. I said, I'm not going to lie though, I really like to go on the you know, Daytona. And he actually talked me out of buying a Saturn. He said, no, you don't want a Saturn, you want a PlayStation. That's where it's at, you know. And he showed me that it was RGB modded and shit like this. I don't know if he did it himself. I don't know if he imported them. I don't know if he was like a business and stuff like that, or just someone, you know, taking a punt, making a couple of quid on some stuff he got his hands on quite luckily. But yeah, so you know, he showed me Cyber Sled and stuff like that. I said, look at this, and then look at Daytona and look at the polygons. Not really equivalent games and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, so bought it there and then, and it came with Cyber Sled. That was it, and it came in, you know, obviously not so beaten up then, but it came in this box, as I said, which I think is a really nice looking, was a really nice looking box before it got raped by my attic. And yeah, so I remember we went back to my mate Andy's house, and we played Cyber Sled for fucking solidly all night, because that's all I had. I had the two PlayStation 1, you know, non-analog little pads, which are like 1/3 smaller than the UK ones, and the leads on them were only like that long. I think it was to do with the aesthetics of, or size I should say, of Japanese houses and stuff like that, is what I've read or heard since then. Don't know. But yeah, and we played the crap out of that game, and it was suitably impressive. It just wasn't a very good game. And then actually I did have a job. I was a labourer, and I also my base of operations for labouring was in St George, and there was also, same place I bought the console, there was an import shop. Back then this was kind of unheard of. You had stores that imported like Japanese Mega Drive and SNES games and stuff like that. Like I've talked about that in one of my Nostalgic Memories of videos. But to actually have a store that imported nothing but Japanese, you know, console tech was kind of unheard of. And the fact that it was there for a couple of years, the fact that it survived in St George, in Bristol, you know, particularly not well-off working-class city, it seems very niche. But yeah, the first couple of games I bought from there. So I bought Batterina Toshinden? Don't know. Always called it Toshinden as a kid. Bought it from there, and it was £75. And yeah, it was a looker then. not so much now, not so much, you know, later PlayStation 1 life, but yeah, in the time, because you could roll around and stuff like, I played like shit compared to Virtua Fighter on the Saturn, absolute garbage compared to that. It was more style over substance, but the thing is, it looks so good. Me and my mates used to go to my mate Carlos's house, and we used to play that. I used to take it over at my PlayStation at night, and we used to play that, nothing but that, solidly for hours and hours and hours and hours, and it was just, it was amazeballs. It was fantastic. I mean, it's shallow as tits, but we didn't care. We were literally hoodwinked by this new behemoth of 3D graphics. I was going to say 3D glasses. 3D graphics. And it did. It sucked us in, and we absolutely loved it. And then his brothers would come over, and we'd play it with them in the early hours of the morning, a couple of beers, some other substances, if you know what I mean. 'Twas the 90s. 'Twas a different time. Yeah. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So many great memories of this. Ridge Racer as well. I remember Ridge Racer was an absolute game changer. Was it arcade perfect? No. Was it close? Pretty much. But it was just insane. Just that blend of music, you know, like techno music and just like high octane racing action. Completely shallow racer, you know, especially when you consider stuff like Gran Turismo. But it was never supposed to be anything like that. That was absolutely fantastic. I remember we used to go over my mate Carlos's brother's house, Dominic. He lived in Clifton, on a Friday night, and he'd put his speaker on its side and push it under the chair that we would sit on to play this thing. Just that's like the bass would come through, and like when you rev the engine, it sounds stupid, but it was the 90s. It was a different time. It's fucking immense. It's absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I bought MotorTune GP. I bought it because the graphics on the back of the case looked amazing. I bought that from the same shop that obviously I bought Toshinden in, so that was 75 quid as well. 75 quid. Mind you can argue that's pushing up with prices now, to be fair, because that's where they want to go. They want us to expend £100 on the game, and they don't even want us to own the fucking copy anymore. And that's why I bought Ridge Racer. And then, I don't know how, because at some point it being released in the UK caught up with me owning it. So Blockbuster started renting games for it, and I don't know how we discovered this, because I know we didn't read it in a magazine or anything like that, and the internet was very, very early days, and we didn't read it on, you know, on there in our 33 fucking K modem. But you could disc swap with this bad boy. Only do it with Generation 1s. You go like that, and then that little switch in there where there's a leg. Can you see that? That powers the unit off when it's open. You shove a whole chunk of blue tack in there, and then when you eject it, it would keep running, and you put your Japanese game in, and then when it went onto the black screen, couldn't do it on the white screen, had to be on the black screen. I think this is how we knackered it up, by the way, when I said there's a piece of CD case. Excuse me, I've just had a Subway. That's why all I can taste is red onion. Love red onion. Yeah, a piece of CD tray holding up one of the legs, because the strain you were put on this was like insane. But what a good way, so you know, to just play games without modding or chip or anything like that. Yeah, you whip the game out, and then you whip in the dodgy power one, because the original 50 hertz power ones were boarded to shit. They should have been ashamed for selling those for the price. Like I said, piracy made these people up their game, because the pirated versions were better quality than the crap unoptimized pow shite that they put out. I might make this my thumbnail. Don't know. But yeah, so you whip it in and bosh, and it would boot. But also the thing is, wouldn't it really? I want to say this. I can't remember if it's entirely accurate. My brain might be adding nostalgia baubles to these things. That it would cue the music off the first disc's music. Because all I know is sometimes you'd have weird music, no music, and stuff that you knew when you played it, like or heard it somewhere else, was in the wrong sequence. Again, I don't know. But I did that for absolutely ages. And then we found a bloke, again, in the back of Black and Whites, who was selling import games, not import games, sorry, allegedly pirated games, 3 for a tenner. This guy was down the end of Feeder Road, so I had to go through, like, fucking town to get to him. But, yeah, 3 for a tenner, and they would burn games. No covers, no you know, instructions, nothing like that whatsoever. Again, I'm probably retreading a lot of old water, but I found this! Oh, let's never be separated again. Yeah, so if they like, I bought so much shit from him. That was when it started to get to the point that even on the PlayStation 1 that I had so many games that I wasn't even playing fucking 20% through them. They were just piling up and they were piling up and they were piling up. And also we had our own CD burner. 4-speed SCSI CD burner. Who remembers SCSI? Fucking love that name. SCSI. And we were allegedly, you know, as you do, wink wink, nudge nudge, I'll tell you no lies if you ask me no questions, cha-ching. And yeah, and also we had a laser printer and we were banging out covers and shit like this, so everything I got at that point I was banging out a cover for. But yeah, just this guy, I mean before that, I mentioned this in my Nostalgic Memories of video, that there was a guy before that, sorry, that was in Clifton that we were buying them off, and then one day, and he was charging like a tenner for one game, but I got Gran Turismo for him, so I can't, you know, I can hate him for that, because that was a game changer. Then one day we found this guy in the back of the Black and White, you know, down the end of Feeder Road, and yeah, I mentioned this previous guy to him, and I think he said something like, fucking cheeky, almost said the C word there, he's buying them off me. Small world. Anyway, I bought them off this guy for absolutely years and years and years, and you know, just fucking, I cannot express how cool the 90s were. The early 90s, you know, Mega Drive and stuff like that. But this came along, and this was like a grown-ups console. And chucking around, it's crude by today's standards, but back then 3D stuff like Wipeout blew your mind, Ridge Racer blew your mind. Loved all the Ridge Racer games on this, Gran Turismo games on this. My favourite game of all time is still the original PlayStation 1 version of Metal Gear Solid. And I beat that in Japanese. Before GameFAQs had anything on it. I know. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I beat that in Japanese, and I bought it again. I bought it off this guy, you know, down the end of Feeder Road with an import copy from America. Import copy of an import copy from America. Yeah, fucking love that game. That's my favourite game of all time. Don't buy the Metal Gear Solid collection. I bought the first one for on my Xbox Series S, and it's just... it's exactly the same as it is on the PlayStation 1, only it's the PAL version, because I didn't think about buying the NTSC version, because you can buy both. Why would you release them both? Yeah, why didn't you release the 3FX PC version? I don't know, but yeah, love that fucking game. Tekken 3 was another absolute game changer. The magazines from this period were fucking shit art and stuff like that. Official PlayStation magazine, where, you know, not so much for me because of, you know, copies and shit like that, but if you had no money, that was a fucking game changer. That was a godsend, just playing the same demo disc again and again and again, and lots of those demo discs were absolutely banging and really, really good. I do remember that's why I first played Doom on the PlayStation. I played that again and again and again because, yeah, just one level of it, but it was absolutely fantastic. But just everything on this console. Alright, it didn't do 2D stuff, you know, we particularly noticed that because I love Street Fighter and shit like that on the fighting games. I saw X-Men, Children of the Atom, my brother Saturn, and then I saw it on the PlayStation. It was like, yeah. And X-Men versus Street Fighter on the PlayStation. Yeah. But this was a banger. This was an absolute banger. And when I came across this box in the attic earlier today and literally shone a torch on it, and so it's like fucking Indiana Jones, you know, pre-woke crap Indiana Jones. Phoebe Waller-Bridge fucking ruining Indiana Jones shite. Although Crystal Skull's pretty fucking bad as well. Yeah, shone a torch on this. It was like pulling the spider webs out of my face and shit like that. And just went, is this my actual PlayStation? I always wondered where this was. And now we know. SCPH 1000, my original Japanese PlayStation from early 1995, £450. It really is quite heavy. £450. This is just a kind of stupid little video. I've retread a lot of stuff, or maybe overtread a lot of stuff, but the point is, cannot express to you the genuine joy, seriously, genuine joy I saw when I found this. And the fact that I said the early 90s, well, mid 90s, sorry, I mean, I was cool in the 90s because I had import Mega Drive and import SNES, but this knocks it out of the park. One more go. Why is it so difficult to get this out? Exactly what she said. Not without dinner first, love. But yeah, this was a whole different ballgame because no one has seen 3D graphics like this outside of a PC. And to be fair, on the PC at that point, they were pretty crap as well. But yeah, game changer, absolute game changer. Again, I'm gushing now. I am aware that I'm gushing now, but the fucking love and memories that just came flooding back to the surface when I saw this were just insane. So anyway, as always, I love to know what you think. Did you have an original PlayStation, and did you import it like me, because you simply could not wait for it to come out in the UK and knew that if it was going to be a PAL machine, it was going to be bollocks? Or did you miss it entirely? And also, why it's not symmetrical? What's that? But it's not there. Never noticed that before. 29 years later, never noticed that before. But yeah, as always, I'd love to know what you think. A little bit of a waffle, silly, talky video, but my original PlayStation. Japanese PlayStation. Don't act like you weren't impressed. Because you would have been in 1995, especially 450 quid on this bad boy. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.